Substitute death. The concept of substitute death is unimaginable, but it happened in our village to a destitute man named Wang Bao during the busy autumn harvest season. His death was extremely bizarre. During that time, everyone in the village was busy beyond measure. One day, a villager named Wang Benli approached Wang Bao and said, "Hey buddy, can you help me out for a few days? I'll provide meals and pay you 200 yuan. How does that sound?" Wang Bao eagerly accepted, thinking it was a good opportunity. That evening, Wang Benli invited Wang Bao to his house for drinks. They drank and toasted, and after 3 rounds of drinks, it was late at night. Wang Bao was already heavily intoxicated, slumped over the table unconscious. Wang Benli, who was slightly intoxicated himself, straightened up and stared at Wang Bao for a while. He made a firm decision. Wang Benli called Wang Bao a few times, but there was no response. "Wang Bao, do me this one favor. If that dream was just a dream, you won't have to die. But if it was real, I will serve you well with good food and drink, and you should be content." He muttered softly to himself, and then dragged Wang Bao to the bed before quietly leaving the room. The next day, news of Wang Bao's death spread throughout the village. Wang Benli was greatly alarmed, and involuntarily made his way back home to find out what had happened. When he arrived, he saw that the villagers and the police were already there. Sharp-eyed villagers noticed him, and the village chief immediately confronted Wang Benli. "Where were you last night? How did Wang Bao end up dead at your house?" Wang Benli panicked internally, but pretended to be surprised, saying, "Huh? I was halfway through drinking last night when someone called me to help out in town. Wang Bao had drunk too much, so I let him sleep in my house. I just got back now." He finished speaking and nervously peered into the house. There they saw Wang Bao's head hanging by the bed, his body eerily lifeless. The police took Wang Benli to the station to give a statement. He rambled on and made up a story. Combined with the strange nature of Wang Bao's death, which could not be determined, the police had no choice but to conclude the case as accidental death due to alcohol poisoning in the autopsy report. With the incident settled, Wang Benli was released and life in the village returned to normal. However, 1.5 months after Wang Bao's death, on a night when Wang Benli got drunk while drinking with a group of people, he started babbling, "Do you guys know how Wang Bao died?" Everyone at the table was taken aback and became curious, shaking their heads. Wang Benli shook his head and slurred, "A few days ago, I had a dream. In the dream, a ghastly-faced ghost said it would come to take my life in 3 nights. I pleaded with it not to kill me. It said, 'If you don't want to die, find someone to replace you.' After waking up, I pondered, this matter is unusual. It's better to believe in its existence than to dismiss it. So, I came up with a plan, tricked Wang Bao into coming to my house, got him drunk, and let him sleep in my bed. I never expected him to actually die the next morning." Everyone shivered after hearing this, and a few close acquaintances scolded Wang Benli for being unscrupulous. Others lost interest and made excuses to go home. The gathering quickly dispersed. The next morning, as villagers who went to work in the fields passed by Wang Benli's house, they were nearly scared out of their wits. Wang Benli was lying in front of his house, mouth agape, face pale, dead. Even more horrifying, his body had been mutilated, his organs spilled out, blood forming pools. Among the onlookers, there were whispers of Wang Benli's drunken words. The older villagers said that good dreams or nightmares, whether understood or not, should never be casually spoken about. Wang Benli had caused the death of someone, which was already a crime. Having narrowly escaped death but failing to keep the evil spirit's secret sealed his fate, resulting in his own murder. "Hey, he died as a substitute for me!" The people at the table were shocked, instantly intrigued. "Hey Wang, tell us what happened! Tell us!" Gun corpse. The elders told me that they witnessed this incident with their own eyes, and everyone in the surrounding areas knew about it. The elders said that when they were young, there was a stonemason who lived alone on the mountain where the stone quarry was located. He would only come down the mountain occasionally to buy daily necessities, and that was the only time people would see him. One day, after a thunderstorm, eerie screams would echo through the valley every night. The stonemason, who was supposed to go down the mountain to buy supplies, had not come down for a long time. The stonemason had a drinking buddy at the foot of the mountain. This drinking buddy waited for him at the tavern for half a day, but never saw the stonemason. Worried that something might have happened to him, the drinking buddy decided to go to the stonemason's house to check on him. The stonemason's house was situated high up the mountain. When he arrived at the stonemason's house, it was already evening. He discovered that the stonemason wasn't home, so he went to the nearby quarry to find him. He shouted and searched, but there was complete silence all around, and no one responded to him. He thought that the stonemason had already come down the mountain, but missed him because they took different paths, so he decided to go back. By this time, it was already dark. Suddenly, eerie screams came from a nearby hillside, startling him. His body shivered, and his hair stood on end. He wanted to leave quickly, but he couldn't resist his curiosity. In the end, he gathered his courage and walked over. In the bright moonlight, he could see from a distance that a person was trapped under a large rock halfway up the mountain. As he approached, he realized that the person was the stonemason. The lower half of the stonemason's body was tightly crushed by the giant rock, and the eerie screams were coming from the stonemason's mouth under the rock. He quickly ran over, intending to rescue the stonemason. However, upon closer inspection, he discovered that the stonemason had been dead for quite some time. The body was covered in maggots, but the mouth was wide open, and the hands kept waving at him. He was terrified, stunned, and stepped back, unable to believe the bizarre scene he had witnessed. In a moment of carelessness, he tumbled down the hillside. He didn't return home that night, causing his family to worry. They gathered a group of people and went to the mountains to search for him. In the middle of the night, they heard the eerie screams again, and hurriedly ran towards the direction of the screams, but they were still a step too late. The stonemason's drinking buddy, due to the lack of timely treatment, met an unfortunate end. They also discovered the gun corpse under the giant rock. Everyone was terrified and quickly returned to the village to seek the help of a Taoist priest. The Taoist priest killed a rooster and started performing rituals. He drew a talisman, and the talisman instantly caught fire in the priest's hand. After the talisman burned out, a foul-smelling odor wafted out, and the gun corpse remained motionless. The crowd worked together to move the stone, and found a suitable place to bury the stonemason and his drinking buddy. The elders told us that after a person dies, there is still residual breath in the body. If the corpse is exposed to sunlight and the passage of time, it will reanimate during a thunderstorm and pounce on living beings when it smells vitality. It is truly terrifying. Fortunately, the stonemason's body was trapped under the giant rock, so although it decomposed, it couldn't move. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. As I grew up and watched many movies, I realized that a gun corpse is just another term for a zombie, and gun corpse was simply a name that the older generation was more accustomed to using.